security camera sent me a motion alert at 2:13 a.m. The problem was I was already inside the house, and I was the only person home. I bought the cameras after my neighbor's house was broken into last winter. Nothing dramatic. No smashed windows, no missing TVs. The guy apparently came in through an unlocked side door while they were asleep, took a few small things, and left before sunrise. It was enough to make me paranoid. So I installed 3 cameras, one over the front door, one facing the downstairs hallway, and one in my bedroom, because the bedroom was at the end of the hall, and I wanted to know if anyone made it upstairs, and I know how that sounds. A camera in my bedroom. At the time, it made me feel safer. For the first month, nothing happened. Then, on a Tuesday night, my phone buzzed. 2:13 a.m., motion detected hallway. I opened the app expecting to see a cat or maybe headlights moving through the blinds. Instead, I saw a person standing in my hallway. They were about 20 feet from the camera. Tall, thin, completely still. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, waiting for the image to load properly. Then I realized something. The person was facing away from the camera. They were looking directly at the stairs, and the stairs led to my bedroom. I sat up in bed. I could hear the house around me, the refrigerator humming downstairs, the air conditioner clicking on, the tiny sounds old houses make when the temperature changes. But I couldn't hear footsteps. I checked the timestamp. 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 17 seconds. The person moved, one step and then another, slowly, like they already knew exactly where they were going. I grabbed my phone and turned on the bedroom light. The hallway outside my room was empty. I checked the camera again. The person was still there, and on my phone I watched them take another step toward the stairs. In the real hallway, nothing moved. I thought maybe there was a delay. Then the figure stopped at the bottom of the stairs and slowly turned its head toward the camera. I couldn't see a face, just darkness. I backed away from my bedroom door and called the police. While I waited, I kept watching the feed. The figure never looked at the camera again. It just stood there for almost 4 minutes. Then the screen froze and a red message appeared. Connection lost. I checked the other 2 cameras. Front door offline, bedroom offline. All 3 had disconnected at the exact same second. 2:17 a.m. Police arrived about 10 minutes later. They checked the doors and windows. Nothing was broken. The side door was locked. The basement was empty and there were no footprints, and nothing had been moved. The officer looked at the camera setup and asked me if I had shared access with anyone. I said no. He told me to reset the system and change my Wi-Fi password, and that was it. I almost believed him, until the next morning. I opened the camera app and found that the recording had come back. There was 11 minutes of footage between 2:06 and 2:17. I watched it again, then again. At 2:06, the hallway was empty. At 2:08, empty. 2:10, empty. 2:12, empty. Then at exactly 2:13, the person appeared. No walking into frame, no opening a door, no distortion. One frame was empty. The next frame had someone standing there. I zoomed in. The image quality was awful, but I could tell the person was wearing a gray hoodie. And then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The hoodie looked exactly like mine. I checked my bedroom closet. My gray hoodie was still hanging there. I told myself it was a coincidence. There are millions of gray hoodies. Then I noticed the shoes. White running shoes, the exact same pair I was wearing. I went back to the recording. I watched the figure climb the stairs. It stopped outside my bedroom. My hand was already shaking when I opened the bedroom camera. The bedroom feed was still blank. I rewound the hallway footage, and the figure stood outside my door for almost 30 seconds, and then it raised its hand and knocked, 3 slow knocks. I looked at my bedroom door. There were no knocks, but on the recording I heard them, and knock, knock, knock. I called my friend and asked him to come over. While I waited, I kept going through the footage. At 2:14, the figure walked away from my door. At 2:15, it disappeared around the corner. At 2:16, it returned, but this time it wasn't standing in the hallway. It was standing inside my bedroom. I froze. The bedroom camera had never been online. I watched the tiny black and white feed. My bed was visible, my desk, the closet, and near the foot of the bed, the figure was standing with its back to the camera. It didn't move. Then I noticed the bedroom door. It was open. The real door beside me was closed. I reached out and touched the handle. Locked. I checked the footage again. The figure slowly turned around. My face was visible for less than a second, and not a mask, not a shadow. My face. Same eyes, same nose, same scar above my eyebrow. I dropped the phone. My friend arrived 5 minutes later. I didn't tell him what I had seen, I just handed him the phone. He watched the clip without saying anything. Then he asked a question I'll never forget. "Why are you in the hallway?" I looked at him. I wasn't. He turned the screen toward me. The timestamp said 2:13. There was the figure wearing my clothes, wearing my shoes, with my face. And then my friend paused the video. "Look at the background." I did. For the first time, I saw it. In the reflection of the dark television screen at the end of the hallway, there were two people. One was the figure, the other was me, standing at the top of the stairs, watching it. But I knew where I had been. I had been lying in bed, at least I thought I had. That afternoon, I contacted the camera company. They told me the footage had been uploaded from my account. No unknown devices, no outside login, no deleted recordings, and everything had come from my system. I asked if someone could have accessed the cameras locally, and they said only if they had physical access to the network or my password. I changed everything. Passwords, Wi-Fi, camera settings. I even unplugged the system. I should have left the house that night. Instead, I stayed, and that was my mistake. At 2:13 the next morning, my phone buzzed again. Motion detected bedroom. I was sitting on the couch downstairs, and I opened the app. The bedroom camera was showing my empty bed, and then the bedroom door slowly opened. No one was there. The door opened another few inches, and then I saw myself walk into the room. Same gray hoodie, same shoes, same face. The version of me on the camera sat on the edge of the bed. It looked directly into the lens and smiled. I didn't smile. I couldn't move. Then the camera feed switched to the hallway. The figure was standing outside the bedroom, looking toward the stairs, toward me. I ran outside, and I never went back in that night. The next morning, the police came again. They searched the entire house. Nothing, no person, no hidden room, no broken lock, no explanation. One officer asked me where I had been at 2:13 the night before. I said downstairs, and he stared at me for a moment. Then he showed me something on his phone. It was the footage from my camera. The timestamp was 2:13:42 a.m. And there I was, standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking directly at the camera. He asked me why I had walked upstairs and then come back down. I told him I never did. He didn't answer. He just replayed the clip. This time I noticed something I'd missed. The version of me on the footage wasn't looking at the camera. It was looking at something behind it. Something the camera couldn't see. Then right before the recording ended, the figure leaned toward the lens. Its lips moved. There was no audio. But I could read the words. "I know you're watching." I sold the house 2 weeks later. The cameras were removed. The account was deleted. I thought that was the end of it. Until last night, I got a notification from an account I no longer have access to. Motion detected. I opened the alert. It was a live camera feed. My old hallway, same house, same angle, same timestamp. 2:13 a.m. and someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs. This time I could see its face clearly. It was mine, and it was smiling. Then the camera turned. Not the image, the camera itself, slowly, toward the person standing behind it.